Let your breathing slow and let your mind drift far back in time to a quiet river flowing gently through 7 hills. This is the Tiber, a place where the world was still young and the first stories of Rome began to take shape. Long before cities stretched their walls, before emperors wore their crowns, there were legends. 2 brothers, left to fate, abandoned but not forgotten. Romulus and Remus, raised by a she-wolf beneath the endless sky, the soft sounds of the wild wind and the river's flow mixed with the cries of these newborn sons of myth. Romulus would build a city from the dust and dreams of these hills, a city called Rome. But the path was not simple or easy. Brother turned against brother, a story of sacrifice and a beginning. 7 kings ruled this new city, each bringing something new: law, war, faith, and fear. Numa, the peaceful king, who gave Rome its first laws and sacred rites. Tullus, the warrior, who stirred the people's hearts toward battle and glory. Ancus Marcius, the builder, who raised bridges and prisons alike. Tarquin the elder, the visionary, who dreamed of greatness for Rome. And finally, Tarquin the proud, whose cruelty sparked a fire that could not be contained. For nearly 250 years, Rome was a kingdom, loyal yet restless, until the people rose. They cast out their king. They swore never to be ruled by one man again. The monarchy ended. The republic began. But that is a story for another time. For now, breathe in the stillness of these ancient hills. Feel history wrap softly around you. The story of Rome has only just begun. Close your eyes and let yourself fall deeper into time. And now, as the last echoes of the kingdom fade away, a new era begins in the quiet heart of Italy. The Roman Republic is born. An experiment in shared power, a delicate balance between rulers and the ruled. No longer the domain of kings, Rome's future would be forged by many hands, by senators, magistrates, and the voice of the people. Picture the Roman Forum, the bustling centre of public life. Here, beneath the warm Mediterranean sun, orators raise their voices in passionate debate. Citizens gathered to witness laws being crafted, and the fate of the city hung on the words spoken. Yet, this new freedom was fragile, like a candle flickering in the breeze. A city divided by class and privilege, between the patricians, Rome's noble elite, and the plebeians, the common people seeking justice. For years, the plebeians struggled to have their voices heard, to claim their rights in a society built on tradition and hierarchy. Slowly change came. Tribunes were created to protect the people. Laws were written down for all to see and understand, and the Republic's foundations grew stronger. But outside Rome's walls, the world was far from peaceful. Enemies gathered on all sides, tribes of fierce warriors, rival cities with ambitions of their own. Rome's armies marched forward, not only with swords and shields, but with cunning strategy, unwavering discipline, and fierce determination. The Republic expanded its reach across the Italian peninsula, absorbing cultures, forging alliances, and subduing foes. Yet, even as Rome grew in power and influence, internal tensions simmered beneath the surface. The gap between rich and poor widened, ambition clashed with duty, and the Republic's fragile unity was tested time and again. Great leaders emerged from this turbulent era: Cincinnatus, the humble farmer called to serve, who returned to his plough after saving Rome; Cato the elder, fierce defender of tradition and morality; and Julius Caesar, whose brilliance and ambition would forever change the course of history. Caesar's rise was meteoric and dazzling. His military campaigns stretched Rome's power to new horizons. His reforms reshaped the Republic's very structure. When he crossed the Rubicon River, he crossed the line between Republic and Empire. But power came at a price. The Republic's ideals clashed with the reality of ambition and betrayal. In the Senate, shadows lengthened, and the daggers of conspirators ended Caesar's life, an act that shocked the world but could not halt the tide of change. Rome stood at a crossroads. The Republic was dying, and the Empire was dawning. Breathe deeply now, and feel the weight of centuries resting softly. With the Republic behind it, Rome steps into a new era, the age of the Empire. At the centre of this transformation is Augustus, once known as Octavian, a man of vision and great patience who brings order after decades of civil war. He holds the power carefully, calling himself the princeps, the first citizen, though in truth he holds the reins of an empire. Under Augustus, Rome experiences the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, a remarkable period of stability lasting over 2 centuries. Imagine the empire in its prime, a vast network of cities and provinces stretching from the misty hills of Britannia across the sun-drenched lands of North Africa to the rich fields of the eastern provinces. Rome itself blossoms like never before. Grand marble buildings line the streets. The Forum is alive with merchants, senators and citizens, and the air is filled with the sounds of daily life, from the calls of vendors to the distant echoes of poets reciting verses. The Romans build remarkable infrastructure. Aqueducts carry fresh water over miles, public baths offer places to relax and socialize, and roads, paved and straight, link the farthest corners of the empire to the bustling heart of Rome. Trade flourishes, bringing spices, silk and exotic goods from the east, while Roman coins circulate widely, uniting a vast and diverse population under a common economy. Yet, beneath this prosperity, the emperor's word is absolute. The Senate, once powerful, now serves more as an advisory body, while the emperor's officials govern provinces, collect taxes, and maintain order. The emperor is both a political and religious figure, worshipped by some as a god on earth, symbolizing the unity and might of Rome. Life for the average citizen can be comfortable. Citizens enjoy festivals, games at the Colosseum, and abundant food. But life for the lower classes and slaves remains harsh, bound to the will of wealthy landowners and imperial demands. Famous emperors leave their mark. Trajan, who expands the empire to its greatest territorial extent, and Hadrian, who consolidates and fortifies the borders, building a great wall in the north to keep out hostile tribes. The arts and culture thrive, philosophers debate, poets compose verses about love and loss, and engineers push the boundaries of architecture and technology. Yet even during these golden years, challenges emerge. Political intrigue lurks in the shadows, economic pressures strain the system, and growing disparities between rich and poor fuel unrest. Despite these challenges, Rome stands as a beacon of civilization, a place of incredible achievement and enduring legacy. Take a deep breath and let the sounds of ancient Rome wash over you, carrying you gently through the pages of history. The story of Rome continues, its empire vast and its future uncertain. The golden light of the Pax Romana begins to dim. With the death of Emperor Marcus Aurelius in 180 CE, the empire stands at a quiet threshold, poised between greatness and uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, leaves behind not just an empire but a son, Commodus, and with him a shadow falls. Commodus's reign is marked not by wisdom but by indulgence, vanity and cruelty. He sees himself as a god, fighting as a gladiator in the Colosseum, demanding the worship of his people. The Senate recoils, the people grow uneasy, and the once stable foundation begins to shift. Soon assassination ends his rule, and with it the peace of the empire shatters. What follows is a time of deep turmoil, the crisis of the 3rd century, a period when Rome fractures and the empire seems to unravel before the eyes of its own citizens. In the span of just 50 years, more than 24 emperors rise and fall, many meeting violent ends, murdered by rivals, betrayed by their troops, or cut down in civil wars. The frontiers are no longer secure. Germanic tribes cross the Rhine, Persian armies push from the east. Plague returns, and with it fear and suffering. Famine haunts the countryside, while inflation weakens the currency. Provinces rebel, cities are sacked, and Rome itself teeters on the edge. Yet even in this darkness there are moments of resilience, flickers of strength in a weary world. Soldiers still stand watch at distant borders. Citizens still gather in forums to trade and talk. Farmers still plant their crops, hoping for a better season. And amidst the chaos, a few strong hands try to pull the empire back from the brink. One such hand belongs to Emperor Aurelian. Rising from humble origins, he reunites a fractured Rome, defeating the breakaway Gallic Empire in the west and the Palmyrene Empire in the east. He rebuilds the walls of Rome itself, fortifying it against future threats, declaring boldly, Restituta Orbis, the restorer of the world. But even he is not spared. Aurelian falls to treachery, a knife in the dark, a dream unfinished. Still, the tides begin to change. The empire, though battered, refuses to fall. In the final years of this era, a new leader emerges, Diocletian. He sees what others do not, that Rome must evolve to survive. Though his full reforms belong to the next chapter, his rise marks the turning of the page. The worst has passed, and from the ashes of crisis, a new structure begins to form. Let your thoughts drift. The empire was not dead, but it was no longer the same. In the closing years of the 3rd century, Rome stood like a weary giant, scarred yet still standing. Then came Diocletian, a man of iron discipline, cold resolve, and quiet ambition. He saw what the empire had become, too large, too chaotic, too vulnerable. And so he began to reshape it, not just to rule, but to control, to organize, to endure. His first act, divide the empire in two, east and west. 2 emperors, 2 Caesars beneath them. A system called the Tetrarchy. In theory it was balance. In practice, it was complexity. Yet, for a time it worked. Governors answered to nearer rulers. Armies were stationed closer to the frontiers. Bureaucracies expanded, dense, methodical, managing the vast machinery of empire. Taxes became more structured, though heavier on the poor. Laws multiplied, sometimes just to hold society together. It was a time of order, but not of freedom. Diocletian also brought a wave of religious repression. The old gods were promoted, and Christianity, now growing rapidly in secret gatherings and city alleys, was harshly persecuted. Jails filled, crosses burned. But the faith endured, and even grew. After Diocletian retired, a rare and peaceful abdication, a power struggle followed. Ambition returned, generals fought, allegiances shifted. And out of this storm came one man, Constantine, a warrior, a strategist, a visionary. At the Milvian Bridge he claimed victory under a new sign, the Christian cross, and everything changed. Christianity was legalized, churches rose, bishops gained influence, the old gods faded, their temples emptied, their statues broken by time. In 330 CE, Constantine built a new capital, not in Italy, but in the east, Byzantium, renamed Constantinople. A city of domes and marble, of trade and gold, where east met west. Rome was no longer the only heart. Now power pulsed from two thrones, and the centre of gravity shifted eastward, quietly but permanently. In these decades the empire became something new, more Greek than Latin, more spiritual than imperial, more enduring in some ways, but less Roman. The Senate faded further. Emperors grew remote. The people watched from a distance, still fed, still entertained. The year is 395 CE. The Western Roman Empire is alone. With the death of Emperor Theodosius, Rome is now truly divided. Two emperors, two courts, two futures. In the east, Constantinople shines, stable, strong, defended. But in the west, things are beginning to unravel. The Western court settles in Ravenna, a city protected by swamps and stone, but far removed from the heart of the empire. Rome is no longer Rome. The Senate still meets, the people still pray, but the city's power is only symbolic now, a ghost of what it once was. Beyond the Alps the world shifts. Germanic tribes, Visigoths, Vandals, Suebi, Ostrogoths, press against the borders, not as invaders at first, but as refugees. Fleeing the wrath of the Huns, led by the terrible Attila, they ask Rome for asylum. And Rome says yes. But food runs short, tensions rise, promises are broken, and soon the Visigoths rebel. In 410 CE, under the warrior Alaric, they march on Rome itself. For the first time in 800 years, the eternal city is sacked. Temples are looted, gold taken. The streets echo not with victory, but with disbelief. The world is stunned. Saint Jerome writes, "If Rome can perish, what can be safe?" And yet the empire staggers on, wounded but alive. New emperors rise, some strong, some weak. Some are puppets of generals, others barely more than figureheads. Power often lies not with the emperor, but with the magister militum, the master of soldiers. Men like Stilicho, like Ricimer, like Orestes. Rome now fights not for conquest, but for survival. In Gaul, in Hispania, in Africa, Roman control fades. In 455 CE, another horror. The Vandals arrive by sea and sack Rome a second time. More brutal, more final. They strip the city bare. Even the sacred relics are taken. The emperor, Petronius Maximus, is torn to pieces in the street, and the empire bleeds. Trade collapses, roads fall into disrepair, cities shrink. The great baths run dry, aqueducts crumble, learning withers, and faith, Christian faith, becomes the new centre of life. The Bishop of Rome, the Pope, begins to hold more influence than the emperor himself. People pray for protection, not to Caesar, but to Christ. In these darkening years, one final figure stands on the stage, Romulus Augustulus, a child. Feel the cool marble beneath your feet. See the broken columns rising to meet the stars, and hear only the wind, only the past. The Western Empire is gone, but Rome remains. The Western Empire has fallen, but the East survives. From the shining city of Constantinople, Rome continues, under a new name and with a new soul. They call it Byzantium, but to its people it is simply the Roman Empire. In truth, it is both old and new. Roman in its laws, its administration, its memory, but now Christian in spirit, Greek in language, and Eastern in culture. Constantinople, Nova Roma, the new Rome, stands proud beside the Bosphorus, a bridge between continents, a jewel of stone and gold, its domes reaching toward the heavens. Here, emperors still wear purple. Here, Caesars still rule, and the first among them is Zeno. He inherits a fragile throne, surrounded by enemies, Goths, Persians, internal rivals, but Byzantium endures. Then, in 527 CE, a new figure rises, Justinian I, the great codifier, the builder, the dreamer of reconquest. With his brilliant general Belisarius, he retakes North Africa, Italy, parts of Spain. For a moment, the Mediterranean becomes Mare Nostrum again. But wars drain the treasury. The people riot. In 532, during the Nika revolt, Constantinople burns. Justinian rebuilds, and from the ashes rises Hagia Sophia, the Church of Holy Wisdom, a masterpiece of light and space, a temple unlike any before it. Justinian codifies Roman law, the Corpus Juris Civilis, a legacy that shapes Europe for centuries. His reign is glorious, but also the last breath of a Roman Empire as the world once knew it. After Justinian, the empire contracts. New enemies emerge. Arab armies surge across the Levant and North Africa. The eastern provinces, Syria, Egypt, Palestine, are lost. The Byzantines fight back, adapting with fire and faith. They invent Greek fire, a burning liquid that ignites even upon water. A secret weapon, feared by their enemies, its recipe lost to time. Faith becomes central, Icons fill every church. Monks debate the nature of Christ. Theological disputes spark councils, heresies, and sometimes war. In 1054, the Great Schism splits the church in two, East and West, Orthodox and Catholic. The division is spiritual, but also political. The Byzantine emperors no longer speak Latin. They are Greek in tongue and Eastern in heart. Wealth fades, enemies grow. By the 15th century, only the city itself and a few scattered lands remain. Surrounded by the rising power of the Ottoman Turks, and yet, the spirit endures. In 1453, the final chapter begins. Sultan Mehmed II, with an army of over 100,000 men, lays siege to Constantinople. The defenders are few. Led by Emperor Constantine XI, they hold the walls for weeks. On May 29th, the city falls. The emperor dies sword in hand. The Hagia Sophia is converted to a mosque. The last Roman banner is lowered. And so ends the Roman Empire, not in Rome, but in the East, not by decay, but by conquest. Yet, Rome lives on, in law, in language, in the architecture of cathedrals, in the dreams of kingdoms, in every government built upon its ideas. Close your eyes and walk the silent halls of the great palace. Feel the marble, cool and worn. Listen for echoes of emperors long past. Smell incense rising in golden chapels. The story is over, but the memory remains. Rome has fallen, yet it never truly died. It became something else. It changed. It passed through fire and emerged as legend, a quiet conquest of history itself.